Today, on my commute, there was a topic that I've been wrestling with a lot over the last few years. And this is a very popular topic, so I hope for good discussion. And it's around the existence of God, right? And the belief in God. We see a rise of atheism. We see a rise in people that don't believe in any God, whether there be polytheism or monotheism, idol worship, whatever it may be. They don't believe in a higher entity at all, right? And a lot of atheists have this belief that science is the governing principle. Okay, science is their God, is essentially their way of seeing the world. Now, growing up, like I mentioned in my previous videos, I'm a believer in God. I'm a monotheist. I'm a religious person of Islam, but I'm also a scientific person. I'm an engineer. My world is science. My world is evidence. My world is laws of physics and things like that. So, but I've never had an issue with this. As a Muslim, I've never gone to school one day and said, hey, you know what, God does not exist, or this is nonsensical. No, it was never like this, right? And I wanted to articulate my reason for that, the way that I've kind of gone about it, and I'm curious to hear what other people think, right? When I have discussions with people about God, about the existence of God and believe in God, the biggest pushback against God is that there's not enough evidence for the existence of God, right? There's these kind of takes that God, why would you believe in this entity that is all powerful and this and that, right? This mystical, magical creature that does magical, mythical things. Why would you believe in that? And I have two theories. I have two kind of chains of thought, and I'm curious to hear what people think of this. For the existence of God. Number one, and let's put aside Allah. Let's put aside monotheism and God. Let's put aside that for a second. Let's talk about the existence of life other than humanity, right? From a scientific perspective, given the vastness of the universe, given the rate at which the universe is expanding, right? We know that it's highly possible that there's life that exists elsewhere in this universe, right? Just from sheer probability, sheer luck. The universe is so vast that it would be ridiculous if there wasn't life anywhere else in the universe. Again, just for the sake of argument, from a scientific perspective, right? But now, let's look at what we define as intelligent life, right? The difference between the DNA of a human being and a chimpanzee is what, 2%? 2-3%? They're very close. And that 2 to 3% difference is a difference between swinging from trees and using sticks to pick out ants, basic things, to going to the moon and quantum physics calculations and civilization and cars and roads, and that 2% in DNA is the difference between living in the forest to completely dominating the earth and leaving the earth, right? That's 2%. But what if we did that thought experiment the other way around, where the 2% wasn't 2% was more advanced than us? What if there was a species out there, and assuming it's all carbon-based life and it's all genetic life, what if there was a species out there that had been evolving for billions of years longer than us, right? And this species had DNA that was 2% more advanced than us. What would they be able to do? Would their kids be able to do quantum physics calculations in grade school, and that would be what they post in their fridges? Would they have invented wormholes long time ago? They're tribal nations, right? The early civilizations already invented wormholes and light speed travel, right? You could anticipate that. You could draw that line. You could draw that correlation, especially if it's like an exponential correlation. Let's keep going. What if there was a species that was 2% more advanced than that species, and now that species wasn't just able to master, intergalactic travel, but they were able to create matter. They created matter. They could create planets. They could harness. They could create suns and create their own planet and their own moons. Because they could harness matter at a large scale. Right? Now, keep going. What if there was a species out there that was so advanced that they could step outside of universe altogether? They could literally go to the ends of the universe, travel at speeds greater than the speed of light, step outside the universe, and go, this is the universe, and travel between universes. What if they were able to create universes, build their own realities, right? From a scientific perspective, if you believe, okay, science is not a principle. Science is a methodology that allows you to establish principles. But because we don't know everything about the universe, it is absolutely plausible that species like this could exist, right? But now imagine there was a species that was, let's say, 50% more DNA advanced than us. A species, a creature that was so advanced that they could create universes, create matter, create everything. And they decided to create a universe where we live in that, right? At a minimum, as an atheist, you must agree that the existence of a god or gods is completely and utterly plausible. You can't outright deny it. There's no evidence against it, right? In fact, based off of what we know now, we can correlate that, yes, there might be a plausible god or might be a plausible entity that is more advanced than us, right? That's the first argument. The second argument is in Quran, in the Islamic text, right? Allah has given us many pieces of evidence that allude to the fact that the book of the Quran is the book of God. It's his work. And the reason Allah does this is because he wants us to be able to validate his existence, right? Allah does not need to give you a complete insight into the entirety of the universe and the fabric of the universe for you to then believe in him. That's not realistic, right? When you, for example, work in a lab and you have a ruler or a scale, right? And you're calibrating that ruler or scale, you don't calibrate it every single time you're taking a measurement. You calibrate it using a series of known measurements, and then you say, hey, this is calibrated for this date range, right? And then you use that scale or ruler to take measurements, and you trust those measurements. You validate it, right? Believing in the existence of a God is more, in my perspective, it's more of the process of validating the existence of God through specific evidences that we have in the Quran. Like there's scientific evidences. There's the description of the embryonic process, and how the salt water and fresh water don't mix, and there's evidences of pulsar stars. There's evidences in the Quran that are so profound. There's no way a tribe in the desert could have ever figured this stuff out. And I believe the reason why Allah has given these evidences is because it allows us to validate his existence. For people that go, no, that's not enough for me. I need direct evidence. Like, I need to be able to see God. He needs to be able to directly speak into my mind. That's nonsensical. As a scientist, you would never approach anything like that. If you approached your scientific testing like that, and every single time you took a measurement, you would drive yourself insane. You would be inefficient. And this is exactly why, growing up as a Muslim and as a scientist, I was never confused. They make complete sense. Like, the two add up. They support each other. And that's why if you look at majority of Muslims that are also scientists and work in STEM fields, which is a lot, by the way, because of you have certain cultural biases and preferences for these fields. They're devout Muslims. They're not like, they get to a certain level of their field and they abandon their religion. No, in fact, it reaffirms their belief in the religion for the most part. Now, this is very important, and I'm curious to hear what people think about this. Why is there? Give me arguments. Give me refutes to these arguments. These two arguments. Number one, and then give me arguments as to why you don't believe in the existence of God. Right? I'll buy that you believe maybe God exists. Maybe. I'll buy that. But give me the evidences that indicate directly that God doesn't exist. The direct negative. And we'll talk.